Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today, we're diving into a story of friendly rivalry. The story begins with a young girl named Sol-ki, a kindergarten student. One day, her school organized a field trip to a seaside destination in Korea. All her classmates wore matching uniforms, except for Sol-ki, who insisted on dressing like a little princess. While everyone was having fun by the shore, their teachers took a group photo of the class. However, Sol-ki wasn't included. She had distanced herself from the others. Later, when the group returned to school, they unknowingly left her behind. Sol-ki was terrified and burst into tears. She realized that, by refusing to wear the uniform like the others, she had made herself invisible in the eyes of the teachers. Eventually, someone found her and brought her to an orphanage. From that moment on, Sol-ki had to start a new life. Unfortunately, the orphanage wasn't a place of warmth and care. At times, she didn't even have enough food to eat and survived on water alone. Years passed, and Sol-ki reached middle school. Her classmates didn't particularly like her, and some even bullied her. One day, a few students cruelly stuck candy in her hair. Sol-ki, used to such treatment, simply took a pair of scissors and cut off the affected strands. But the bullying didn't stop. She was constantly targeted because her peers saw her as weak. By the time she entered high school, Sol-ki started looking for a job. However, being an orphan made it difficult for her to find work. Eventually, she began working with a boy from the orphanage, someone she looked up to. He introduced her to a job that involved running errands, including buying medicine from a hospital using fake IDs and selling it to people who needed it. After completing a task, Yoon-jin asked Sol-ki how she was doing in school. She admitted that she ranked 15th out of 30 students in her class. Hearing this, Yoon-jin laughed and asked what she wanted to do with her future. Sol-ki didn't have an answer. Instead of mocking her further, Yoon-jin handed her a packet of pills, telling her that in Seoul, these were nearly impossible to get. He then advised her to focus on studying and not follow in his footsteps. At first, Sol-ki dismissed his words. She knew Yoon-jin as a troublemaker with poor grades, so she didn't take him seriously. However, something about their conversation lingered in her mind. That night, she dug out her old textbooks and started studying again. Over time, her ranking improved. She was now among the top 15 students in the entire school. Her efforts didn't go unnoticed. The people at the orphanage started treating her differently. They provided her with food and even turned on the air conditioner while she studied. Seeing this change, Sol-ki realized that academic success was her key to survival. She decided to take the pill Yoon-jin had given her. Instantly, she felt an overwhelming sense of focus and energy. It was as if she had entered a state of complete clarity, making problem-solving easier than ever. Encouraged by this newfound ability, she started using the pills more frequently, especially before exams and study sessions. As Sol-ki grew stronger academically, the bullies who once tormented her turned their attention elsewhere. She became addicted to the feeling of power the pills gave her, relying on them for every academic challenge. One day, she told Yoon-jin and their friends that it would be her last day working with them. She had found her father in Seoul and planned to leave the orphanage to live with him. Back at the orphanage, as she packed her belongings, she turned on the television. A news report announced that a prestigious school in Seoul was opening admissions and testing students for enrollment. The opportunity intrigued her. 4 months later, Sol-ki moved to Seoul. However, the city was completely unfamiliar to her. Having grown up in a small, rural area, she found herself lost and overwhelmed in the fast-paced, modern environment of the capital. When Sol-ki arrived at her new school, she immediately went to meet the teacher to ask for information. The teacher informed Sol-ki about her assigned class and advised her to purchase the school uniform to blend in with the other students. After hearing this, Sol-ki stepped outside but quickly realized she had no idea which building her classroom was in. She tried asking some students nearby, but they ignored her. Just then, she noticed a few students walking into a building and decided to follow them. When she arrived, she discovered that it was the opening ceremony for the new academic year, where all students and teachers were gathered. As Sol-ki stood watching, an elderly flower vendor approached her, grabbing her hand and asking if she wanted to buy flowers. Sol-ki politely declined, and the vendor moved on to sell to other students at the front. Suddenly, security officers appeared and attempted to remove the old woman from the premises. Just as they were about to escort her out, a girl intervened, stopping the security guards. She declared that she would buy all the flowers, shocking everyone around. That girl was Jae, the most powerful and intelligent student at Chaiwa High School. Not only was she the top student, but she was also the daughter of a wealthy man, the head of a prestigious hospital in Korea, and a major sponsor of the school. Sol-ki was intrigued by Jae. Shortly after, Jae took the stage and delivered a speech about the new school year, welcoming students and providing guidance. Sol-ki watched in fascination, but her moment of admiration was interrupted when a security guard approached her. The guard, noticing her unfamiliar uniform, asked her to leave if she wasn't a student at the school. Embarrassed, Sol-ki continued her search for her classroom. After some time, she finally found it, but upon entering, the teacher scolded her for being late. She quickly found an empty seat as the teacher began explaining upcoming exams. The students were required to pass several tests to qualify for specialized courses leading to university admissions. During the lesson, a female student asked the teacher which class Jae was in, and the entire class became curious, except for Sol-ki, who had no idea who Jae was. A few moments later, the classroom door opened, and Jae herself walked in, leaving the students in awe. The teacher stepped out of the room, and Jae scanned the class for a seat. Suddenly, Sol-ki's bag fell to the floor, spilling its contents. Embarrassed, she quickly rushed to pick up her belongings. Jae, noticing a badge among the scattered items, picked it up. It was from a prestigious medical school. Sol-ki hurriedly took it back and returned to her seat. As Jae searched for a seat, the other students eagerly hoped she would sit with them, but to everyone's shock, she chose to sit next to Sol-ki. The classroom erupted in whispers. No one had expected the school's most powerful student to sit with the new transfer student. After class, Sol-ki went to the restroom, where a group of students approached her. They wanted her to switch seats so they could sit next to Jae. One girl even offered to give Sol-ki anything she wanted in exchange. Amused, Sol-ki jokingly replied, "I'd like a house," knowing that these students came from wealthy families. The girl was stunned but quickly realized Sol-ki was joking. Eventually, Sol-ki agreed to switch seats. At that moment, Jae entered the restroom and casually said, "Let's go eat together." One of the girls assumed Jae was talking to her, but to everyone's surprise, Jae was inviting Sol-ki. Jae then grabbed Sol-ki's hand and led her out of the restroom, leaving the others stunned. As they walked through the school, students stared in disbelief. Jae had never shown such interest in anyone before. Even Yi-rin and Ki-eun, Jae's closest friends, were surprised. During lunch, the group introduced themselves. However, Sol-ki hesitated when it was her turn, feeling reluctant to reveal her true name. Jae then asked why Sol-ki had transferred to this school. Sol-ki vaguely replied that she had moved with her family. Yi-rin then asked where she had studied before, noting that she didn't recognize the school uniform Sol-ki was wearing. Sol-ki dismissed the question, saying it was from a remote school, and the conversation shifted to another topic. Yi-ri later mentioned that Ki-eun's mother was a lawyer and her father was a prosecutor. When asked why Ki-eun hadn't chosen law as her major, she explained that she wanted to become a doctor instead. Yi-ri then mentioned that Jae, as the daughter of a hospital owner, had chosen the medical field because she was expected to take over her father's hospital in the future. Ki-eun and Yi-rin continued talking about their influential families, making Sol-ki feel increasingly out of place. Jae suddenly asked, "Do you want to study at Han Medical School?" Han was a prestigious medical institution known for its difficult entrance exams. Jae had noticed Sol-ki's school badge earlier and was curious. Sol-ki responded, confirming that she did, in fact, aspire to study there. This revelation surprised Jae because she herself had the same goal. Ki-eun then asked if Sol-ki had a tutor or attended extra classes to prepare for the exams since Han Medical School was incredibly competitive. Sol-ki casually replied that she hadn't taken any extra classes at all. Everyone was stunned. Even Jae, despite being a top student, had private tutors and attended additional lessons to prepare for Han Medical School. Ki-eun was skeptical, saying, "That's impossible." She explained that even Jae had to study rigorously outside of school to have a chance at passing the entrance exams. Sol-ki then asked if the test subjects were already predetermined. Jae replied that the teachers selected the topics, and the information was strictly confidential. Hearing this, Sol-ki became intrigued. At that moment, she noticed something strange. The students around her were taking some kind of medication. When Sol-ki returned to class, she immediately began arranging her belongings to switch desks. A fellow student noticed and asked Sol-ki what she was doing. She explained that she wanted to exchange seats with another student. The student was surprised, but before the conversation could continue, a phone rang from inside a student's bag. That student quickly searched for her phone, but another student, irritated by the noise, threw something at her in frustration. After turning off the phone, the student took some medicine. Seeing this, Sol-ki felt sympathetic and offered her some water. However, the student refused, pouring the water out and asking, "How can I be sure there's nothing in this water?" This reaction left Sol-ki stunned. The student then added, "One day, you'll understand for yourself. Since Jae was chosen, you must endure." Her words deeply unsettled Sol-ki. Meanwhile, in the laboratory, Jae was conducting an experiment when Ki-eun entered and asked, "What are you thinking about, Sol-ki?" Ki-eun continued, "Do you really want Sol-ki to join our group?" Jae remained silent and instead playfully scared Ki-eun with a mouse, causing Ki-eun to panic and beg her to remove it. After taking the mouse away, Jae remarked that it was adorable and resumed her experiment. Ki-eun then voiced her opposition to Sol-ki joining their group, but Jae seemed indifferent. Jae then asked Ki-eun, "When you dislike someone, what do you do?" Ki-eun didn't respond. Instead, Jae looked at a piece of paper and said, "This year, if someone becomes class president, they'll receive a 10% bonus on their midterm exam score." She then asked Ki-eun if she wanted to be class president, promising to vote for her. Ki-eun was skeptical and asked if Jae was serious, to which Jae confidently replied, "Of course." Later, when they returned to class, Jae saw that Sol-ki had changed her seat. She questioned Sol-ki about it, and upon seeing Jae, Sol-ki was visibly startled. She explained, "Because my eyesight is not good, I couldn't see well from the back." Jae then said, "I also want to sit here." She asked the student next to Sol-ki to move, but Sol-ki immediately objected, saying, "It's better not to disturb others." The entire class was shocked that Sol-ki had the courage to reject Jae. Jae, unfazed, simply replied, "If that's what you think, it's fine." She then returned to her seat. The student who had switched seats with Sol-ki then said to Jae, "You're not happy sitting with me, are you?" She continued, "I always wanted to sit near you, but I never thought it would actually happen. This is my first time sitting next to you, and honestly, I'm nervous." Jae smiled and replied, "This is also my first time sitting with someone I didn't choose." Later that day, Sol-ki visited her stepmother's house. While preparing Sol-ki's room, her stepmother asked if she had seen her father's phone. Sol-ki denied it, but her stepmother insisted, asking again. Sol-ki firmly replied that she hadn't seen it. The story then flashed back to her father's funeral, where Sol-ki searched through his belongings and found a missing person notice for herself, indicating he had been looking for her. She also found his phone and took it with her. Back in the present, when Sol-ki opened her suitcase, she was surprised to find her father's phone inside. Shortly after, she received a message from seller confirming the arrival of her school uniform. After picking it up, she took it to a laundromat. While waiting, she attempted to unlock her father's phone but failed multiple times. Suddenly, she received a call on the phone, but when she answered, the caller remained silent. Sol-ki then sensed that someone might be following her. The next day, Sol-ki arrived at school in her uniform. As soon as she took off her outer jacket, the student who had switched seats with her poured orange juice over her uniform, staining it. Sol-ki calmly said it was fine and that she would wash it off, but the student taunted her, laughing, "Do you really think you can wash it clean? You tolerate so much, even if you're dirty, you probably don't care." The student then whispered, "I already know your uniform isn't new, it smells like soap." She continued, "Don't think that just because Jae is nice to you, you can become Cinderella." Just then, Jae walked into the room. Hearing the student's words and seeing Jae, Sol-ki was reminded of her painful past. As an orphan, she had been severely bullied, some students even burned her skin with cigarettes. Overwhelmed by the memories, she left the classroom and went to the restroom to clean her stained uniform. Jae followed her and suddenly hugged her from behind, saying, "We're probably the same size." She then offered Sol-ki a fresh shirt, as she disliked feeling dirty. However, Sol-ki denied and said, "I'm so different from you. I can even wear dirty, smelly clothes." She then asked, "Why do you care so much about me?" Sol-ki questioned Jae further, "Do you not understand what rejection means? Don't waste your time. Not everyone is happy to accept your kindness." Suspicious of Jae's motives, she rejected her help. Jae, unfazed, simply replied, "It's fine," and walked away. Back in class, the teacher conducted a math test. Sol-ki struggled with the difficult questions, while the other students completed them with ease. When the teacher announced the results, Jae was the only one who scored a perfect 10. The teacher then listed students with scores above 5, but Sol-ki's name was not mentioned. Concerned, she approached the teacher, who told her she had scored a 4. The teacher also remarked, "I heard you were once a top student. What happened? Why are you now the weakest?" However, she reassured Sol-ki that it was only a practice test and encouraged her to work harder for the official exams. At the cafeteria, since she had just argued with Jae, Sol-ki chose to sit alone rather than with her. As she sat down, she noticed a student scrolling through their phone, looking at the very picture of her from the laundromat. Without hesitation, she grabbed the student's phone and confirmed her suspicions. However, instead of reacting further, she simply returned to her seat and continued eating as if nothing had happened. Later, she moved to sit alone outside. As she scrolled through the comments on her leaked photo, she saw numerous negative remarks about her uniform. The overwhelming negativity made her feel deeply hopeless. But just as she was sinking into despair, she received a message. It was a picture of a math exam from a prestigious school. Sol-ki was shocked. It was identical to the test she had taken that very morning. This unexpected revelation led her to investigate the school in question. However, when she inquired about the tuition fees, she was stunned. They were far too expensive for her to afford. Realizing that attending the school was impossible, she left the area, feeling uneasy. As she walked, she noticed a teacher giving a lesson to some students. At that moment, Sol-ki secretly took out her phone and took the video. However, another teacher happened to pass by and noticed what was happening. Sol-ki panicked and ran away as fast as she could. She sprinted toward the escalator, but as she reached the lower level, she ran straight into Jae. Meanwhile, the teacher was chasing after her. Thinking quickly, Jae helped Sol-ki escape and told her to run to the rooftop. She promised to follow soon and handed Sol-ki her hat, instructing her to wear it to avoid being recognized. Sol-ki did as she said and hurried to the rooftop, while Jae took her place near the escalator. When the teacher finally caught up and saw Jae, they asked if she had seen a girl who had been caught filming a lesson without permission. Jae calmly denied seeing anyone, saying that she was alone at the escalator. Leaving her, the teacher eventually left. On the rooftop, Sol-ki trembled with fear. Being there brought back painful memories of when her former classmates had bullied her mercilessly. As she lost in thought, a hand suddenly reached out toward her, offering to help her up. What will happen next? See you in the next episode, everyone.